I'm joined now, however, by Reince Priebus. He's the chairman of the Republican National Committee. Mr. Chairman, welcome back to the program.
Good morning, David.
A lot to get to on politics for you to respond to the former president. Let's talk about this wealth issue. Is this an issue and is this an impediment for Hillary Clinton's candidacy?
Well, I think it's an impediment because of, number one, how they earn their money, how they talk about their money. Obviously, I don't think there's a problem with people being rich in this country. It's just sort of when
Mitt Romney didn't lose because he was wealthy, did he?
No, but I think that when you are perceived as being out of touch with people that are struggling, with people that are out there working hard, I don't think flying on private jets and collecting $250,000 for a speech is considered to be hard work. And so people respect folks that earn their money and work hard and they become rich. But when you talk about being dead broke and when you try to make believe that you understand how average people live, but you made $105 million giving speeches, I think people are kind of tired of this show, quite frankly. I just heard the interview. I think there's Hillary fatigue.
The show meaning what? The Clintons?
There's Hillary fatigue already out there. It's setting in. People are tired of this story. And I just happen to believe that this early run for the White House is going to come back and bite them, and it already is. People are tired of it.
You sound a little bit like Barbara Bush. Would you have that same message for Jeb Bush, that the Bush and the Clintons ought to move on?
No, because I don't think Jeb and the Bushes are being as obnoxious about all of this. I mean, you have Bill Clinton chastising Dick Cheney for speaking opinion, while Bill Clinton is out there speaking about his opinions on every subject there is under the sun.
Let me ask you about
these guys are hypocrites.
I'm not going to ask you to relitigate the Iraq debate, but I do question whether there is an emerging Republican foreign policy that you think is distinct from how Democrats pursue foreign policy.
Well, I mean, listen, as party chairman, you know I don't really get into foreign policy that much, and obviously I'm not in those rooms where
it's always a good first time.
But I understand that, but I think maybe the difference has been that the Republicans have been far more willing to be proactive earlier in avoiding some of these conflicts from occurring, where it seems like the president has been hesitant, procrastinating, you know, putting red lines on
Some might say that that's actually more prudent than running into conflicts without asking the hard questions.
Right, but you can't, in the case of the president, I mean, he projected a red line, the red line was crossed, and he didn't do anything about it. I mean, and now he's going back and starting to try to do things.
But all the chemical weapons were removed from Syria.
Maybe 2 or 3 years earlier. And by the way,
But all the chemical weapons were removed from Syria. Wasn't that not an end game?
We don't know that. I mean, you don't know that. I don't know that. Nobody really knows that. My point is that this president, and I think here's where we would differ, maybe not you and I, but me and Democrats, is that this president needs to lead on this subject, whether it be Russia, whether it be Syria, whether it be Benghazi. I mean, all of these areas. I mean, something has to go right. Everything can't go wrong. You know, sort of like a multiple choice test. It's hard to get all the questions right, but it's also pretty hard to get them all wrong. But the president seems able to get all the answers wrong.
Why shouldn't Americans look at this threat of a House Speaker lawsuit as the president says, a political stunt? There's no real legal standing on behalf of an institution. The courts are loath to get involved in two branches fighting with one another. It would take several years to resolve. Isn't this just to gin up the base in the midterms?
You know, I don't know about that. I'm a lawyer. I know something about standing. But what I see is a Supreme Court now that 12 times over the last 3 years have struck down the president's overreach and growth in government, 9-0. The court just said this past week that the president overstepped his bounds, which includes the president's own appointments to the Supreme Court. I actually think it's exactly where we need to be. The Constitution vests power in we the people. Article 1 gives that power to the Congress. The Speaker is in charge of the House. I think he has standing. If he's helping pass laws and the president comes in and says, this is the part of the law I'm going to follow, this is the part I'm not going to follow, this is where I'm going to expand government, he is overreaching and overtaking a part of the Constitution that he doesn't have an authority to take.
Let me ask you.
He doesn't respect the Constitution, David.
Let me ask you quickly. You have said recently that your party, the Republican Party, is not divided at all. I only can view that as sugarcoating, given Eric Cantor's loss, given the narrow victory by Thad Cochran in Mississippi. You have a grassroots right now that is really at odds with the mainstream of the party. And you have here in Thad Cochran somebody who had to rely on a Republican primary, on Democratic voters, to prevail. How do you reconcile that?
Well, first of all, I think you have two, you're speaking of two races, and you're taking that and extrapolating it and placing it upon the entire Republican Party across the country. I come from Wisconsin, totally unified. It doesn't matter who or what type of Republican voter you're talking about. There's unity. You have two races that are going to be Republican, regardless of the outcome, that are going to remain Republican. You know, primaries are pretty common. I'm in favor of primaries. In the end, though, David, what will happen this year is the Republicans are going to add seats to the House, and most people out there think that we're going to win the United States Senate. So we add seats to the House, we win the U.S. Senate. Are we still going to be talking about the health of the Republican Party?
Well, we'll see, because there's a primary fight to come in 2016, but more to come on that. Reince Priebus, as always, Chairman, thank you.
All right, thank you, David.
Appreciate it so much. Coming up next.